Italy is preparing to send naval units towards Cyprus, while the Minister of Defense declared today that maximum alert has been set for Italian air defenses. Let's proceed as always step by step. The announcement was made by the Minister of Defense Guido Crosetto during a speech in Parliament explaining that Italy is acting together with other European countries. Among the Italian units that could be deployed is the frigate Spartaco Schergat, one of the most modern ships available to the Navy. According to Defense News, the ship is currently in the Mediterranean off the coast of Sicily, taking part in the NATO Dynamic Manta exercises. The ship's training activity should be completed shortly, allowing it to return to port for resupply before a possible new deployment to Cyprus. The website also reports that, according to anonymous sources, it would be desirable to send a destroyer, a higher-class ship with more advanced sensors and weaponry. Specifically, looking at the greater number of VLS, which allows for a longer stay. And above all, a number of missiles suitable for the type of threat that one might, let's use the conditional, have to face. However, the situation is definitely not the best. Italy currently has 2 Horizon-class ships, but the Doria, one of them, is currently off the coast of Norway, while the Duilio is engaged in routine maintenance activities in the port of La Spezia. The position of the 2 ships is therefore an element to consider when evaluating operational deployment times and in the selection of the units. Let it be clear, Italy has already had the opportunity to confront its own men and women, indirectly with Iran during the most acute phases of the crisis. In the Red Sea, with the Houthis, who, as you know, have a direct line with Iran, at least when it comes to armaments. Italy is currently participating in Aspides, the European Union maritime mission launched in 2024. The operation is specifically aimed at protecting the freedom of navigation and the sustainable security of trade routes in a vast area that also includes the Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden. In some ways, we can say that what we've seen for years, the crisis in the Red Sea, we are seeing again. But this time, it's much more concerning. In the Strait of Hormuz, which, as we will see at the end of the video, has worrying repercussions on the economic side, especially for Italy. As I told you, alongside the initiatives of the Navy, the Italian government has decided to raise the level of national air and missile defense protection to the maximum. Let me play you a moment from Crosetto.
Today, given what happened in Turkey, given what happened in Cyprus, I have given orders and asked the Chief of Defense Staff to raise the level of protection of the national air and missile defense network to the maximum level. Because when I say that in the face of a reckless reaction, we can expect anything. Anything can be expected.
I already know that I will be criticized by those who will point out that the attack was carried out primarily by Israel and the United States and that Iran is responding. But I know very well that my job also includes insults. The decision therefore implies an increase in operational readiness and a strengthening of surveillance activities. Among the planned measures are the intensification of radar monitoring, the protection of sensitive infrastructure, and the readiness of air and missile defense systems. Unfortunately, afterwards I have to give you some data regarding the national capability concerning ground defense systems. The alert system also includes the preparation of various operational scenarios, including the possibility of dealing with threats such as long-range drones, missiles that can deviate from their expected trajectory, or multiple attacks against military or logistical targets. I want to avoid causing panic, so I'm showing you this chart provided by a very reliable source. It's very unlikely that an attack would be directed straight at Italy, at our national territory, but rather at bases where our soldiers are stationed, and not only those. In recent years, Tehran has invested in improving the accuracy and effectiveness of its missiles and drones. Where technology can't reach, they often make up for it in other ways. The quantity increases, in some cases even saturating the most advanced and layered defenses. They don't have precise numbers on the amount of drones and missiles available to Iran, which from the very beginning has been one of the main concerns. The Iranian response to the Israeli-American attacks was swift, but with a new development compared to the past. Iran targeted the Gulf countries which, due to their proximity to Iran, have less time to respond. And they are seeing their interceptor stockpiles running out. As you can see from the chart, the only missile that could theoretically reach regional Italy is the Soma missile. But the available information on this carrier remains very limited and does not allow for a complete and effective assessment of its capabilities. Furthermore, any Iranian missile headed toward Italian territory for any reason would also have to cross several countries and platforms along its trajectory, including Cyprus, where, in fact, the Europeans are sending their own military assets. And on this subject, it's worth taking a look at our neighbors as well, at what they're doing and how they're preparing before we do the same. However, I remind you that this program, which is airing quite frequently these days, is possible thanks to you, thanks to your support with likes, sharing the videos, and subscriptions. If we're here, it's thanks to these small gestures you can do right now. Thank you very much. As we were saying, our neighbors. Greece has sent 2 frigates and 4 F-16 fighter jets to Cyprus after a drone attack.
Contro la base britannica nell'isola.
The attack happened shortly after midnight on March 2nd when a Shahed-type drone hit the base's runway. The drone, let me point out, could have also been launched from Lebanon, but we don't have concrete information. The British Ministry of Defense reported that the incident caused limited damage and, most importantly, did not result in any casualties. On the same day, Cypriot authorities reported the interception of 2 more drones heading toward the base. Among the naval units, however, the Greek frigate Kimon, belonging to the Frégate de Défense et d'Intervention class, was sent to the area, and it is described as the most advanced ship in the Hellenic fleet, which has recently entered service for Athens. If you follow the channel, you know it well. Alongside it, the frigate Psara has also been deployed, equipped with the Centaur anti-drone system, an innovation born out of the Red Sea crisis itself, which led to the system being successfully tested. Centaur is able to jam approaching drones and thus degrade the signal, causing the identified threat to lose its orientation. Our French cousins have also decided to strengthen their presence in the Mediterranean. President Emmanuel Macron has ordered the aircraft carrier group de Gaulle, which was engaged in exercises in Northern Europe, to head towards the Mediterranean. The naval group should reach the area by the end of the week or at the beginning of the next. The naval group, however, is in a somewhat different situation. It is preparing the deployment of the destroyer Her Majesty's Ship Dragon, which belongs to the Type 45 class, to contribute to naval security. The British security arrangement on the island also includes 2 Leonardo United Kingdom Augusta Westland 159 Wildcat helicopters already deployed in Cyprus. Please note, I could go on, but I will stop the area by the beginning of next week. The air defense capabilities of the Gulf countries are deeply struggling. Alongside the situation in the eastern Mediterranean, Italy is considering the possibility of providing air defense systems to these countries at a time of intense difficulty. The Prime Minister, Giorgia Meloni, stated that Rome intends to contribute to the aid destined for the countries of the region, together with the United Kingdom, France, and Germany. The supplies would specifically concern air defense systems. In previous days, the Minister of Defense, Guido Crosetto, who has been at the center of some controversies, announced that several Gulf countries have requested from our country anti-missile and anti-drone defense systems, including the SAMP system. In the first case, among the countries that have made requests are Kuwait, the United Arab Emirates, Qatar, and Bahrain. But there is a problem with the availability of SAMP systems in Italy. Chiara Rossi, writing for Start magazine, gives us a figure that is not reassuring from this point. Although our country has a whole series of alliances and alternative platforms that can therefore offer a shield. Chiara writes that Italy initially had 5 complete batteries of the SAMP system. After delivering 1 battery to Ukraine, the number of operational batteries has been reduced. Currently, only 4 batteries are available for Italy. One of these is normally engaged in maintenance activities, while another is stationed in Estonia as part of the security missions on the eastern flank of NATO. Take a moment and do the math. And the possible deployment of a 3rd battery to the Gulf region would further reduce the availability of systems intended for the defense of our national territory. Of course, it must be said that a new generation battery called Semtung was officially delivered to the army a few days ago as part of a program started a few years ago, but the system is not yet operational. That said, however, I repeat, no need to panic. Honestly, I'm much more concerned about the economic consequences than about missiles being launched at our country. If Hormuz doesn't allow commercial ships, which are essential for our energy supply, to sail again. So, the crisis that could arise is really very worrying in my humble opinion. Unfortunately, even though the Iranian surface fleet as expected has been almost completely destroyed or in some cases even outside the country, even just a few individual drone launches like the Shahed 136 risk shutting down commercial traffic, causing an economic crisis as a result of the Israeli-American attack against the Iranian regime. That said, take it easy in the comments. I already know the various discussions that could happen. I want you to focus only on the situation of Italian air defenses, which is the most worrying thing economically. What could the near future look like? See you soon on Gens Italia. More info sources are in the first comment.